Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Real Steel, where we talk all things Pittsburgh Steelers. No BS, just the real steel. I'm your host, Jeff, joined by my co-host, Polt, in Baltimore after a wild win by the Pittsburgh Steelers, 26-24. Your Pittsburgh Steelers are kings of the AFC North. They are heading to the playoffs, to the postseason. They have a home game on Monday Night Football against the Houston Texans. Polt, that was an insane game. Multiple heart attacks in the last few minutes of that game. What's your take?
Yeah, that game was crazy. So we're recording this Monday night. So still pretty fresh off of that win last night, and I'm a little in shock still. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm still a little shocked that we pulled out that game, but that was an incredible game. The NFL got everything it wanted in their last regular season matchup for the year, and it was just awesome to be able to pull it out and be on the right side of one of these games. So yeah, incredible. I mean, 3 touchdowns in the last 4 minutes. Just there's so many pieces of this game that were incredible, and yeah, just happy to be on the right side.
Yeah, I'm thrilled. Emotions are high, but it's hard for me to fully get into it. I'm trying to level set, stay in check because I know what has happened in recent history, and I'm doing my best here just to kind of keep it cool. Now I know we have a positive thing coming, hopefully with a Monday Night Football game, but we haven't had a lot of success in the playoffs as of late. So just trying
Yeah.
to enjoy this. But what I learned, if anyone listened to the last episode, what I learned from that last episode is if I just assume we're going to lose and we win, then everything's great. And if we would have lost, it also would have been fine because it would have been what I was expecting. So for me, this is just pile it on, baby. This is just, more good things that are coming. So uh, I just can't believe that this happened. And I mean, you called it. You said we had a fighting chance, and I didn't want to believe it. But here we are, 26-24. And how'd our bold predictions do for this game? I think I predicted a little ref intervention that might not have happened, but did predict it
Oh,
coming down to the last play or last drive.
I mean, you could argue you had it spot on. It came down to you said decided by the last play with the refs involved. And if you go on Twitter today, there is some talk that Ben Skoranek could have got a leverage penalty on the field goal. I think it's kind of crazy. I think his hand touched the back of the snapper, which is allowed, but he didn't push off. So there are some calls that the refs could have been involved. So I think you're kind of spot on. I did not hit mine, although it was way closer than we would have expected. I said the Steelers would outrush the Ravens. The Ravens had 137 rushing yards. The Steelers had 100. Um, for how the game started in the first quarter, the fact that we were within 37 yards of their rushing total is kind of unbelievable. So I didn't win, and I got mine wrong, but it was a lot closer than it really should have been.
Yeah, and I think it was if you look at the stat line of Derrick Henry in the first half versus Derrick Henry in the second half, if we had played the way we did
Incredible.
in the second half, that was night and day, and that essentially would have made that difference. I think he had 114 yards or something like that just in the first half, and then in the second half he had six or some I don't know something like that, but um, pretty
Here I have it
pretty
right here. He
stark
had
difference.
15 carries for 112 yards in the first half and 5 carries for 14 yards in the second half.
Okay, yeah, so I mean that's night and day right there, right? And I mean I would say came pretty close. Jalen Warren was running really, really hard last night. I think
Yeah.
he certainly, if we got a few more carries, probably would have got up there. Aaron Rodgers had a 20-yard rush. Kenneth Gainwell only had 10 yards on 5 carries, but it didn't seem like the ground game was really an area of deficiency. I felt like we ran the ball pretty well, and we'll
No.
talk about how we performed through the air and our defense here and everything, but the way I wanted to go about this episode was just a little bit different in terms of how we kind of break down and digest the game. And what I actually wanted to do, this is coming at a total surprise to you because I said I wanted to do something different. And I said, do you want me to tell you or do you want me to surprise you? And you said, surprise me. So nothing really is
Yeah.
changing with the real steel and how we do this, but I want to take the way we end our wrap ups and put it at the very beginning. I want you to give me your balls of steel and your jag off for this game right now. And I'll do the same. And I think that should kind of dictate or will dictate a little bit how we're going to ultimately break this down because I think there were a lot of different pieces that come into play there with some really key pieces. And I know you probably put a good amount of thought into who you're going to award these to. And I think I know who you're going to give your Jag off to, but I don't know who you're going to give your Balls of Steel to. But I want you to kind of jump in and maybe lead off. Where do you want to go, Jag off? You want to go Balls of Steel? What do you feel?
Oh, what do you want? I mean, you know my jag off, so do you want to start there or do you want to go balls of steel?
Sure, let's start
Let's
with the
start
Jag off.
negative.
I know. Yeah, let's
Yeah.
start negative. I know what you're gonna do, so bring it. You almost wanted to do it you almost got it 2 weeks in a row.
And I
Oh
think that's
my God.
partly why I'm doing it because
Okay.
this is now 3 weeks in a row that, and now I'm getting a little concerned. It's Chris Boswell. I mean, I know we we can talk about this at length and how I said you blaming Rodgers like primarily last week was wrong, and you could say me blaming Boswell primarily this week could be wrong. And I'm not saying I'm necessarily blaming him fully, but that was a really big missed extra point. And I think it was his first one since 2022, so he's been solid, but it almost lost us the game, lost us the division, did all of that. I'm not saying we would have won in overtime, but to not even have the opportunity to go to overtime would have really, really sucked because he missed an extra point. So I'm also worried, and why I really went this way for sure was because I mean, this is 3 straight weeks he's missed a really important kick in the fourth quarter. In the Lions game, he missed a field goal to go up by 8. They came down and almost won the game with a touchdown. In the Browns game, he missed a field goal to cut the lead, I guess to cut it to 2 or something like that. So to make it like a field goal type game where we could have won at the end of the game as opposed to missing 4 straight plays from the 7. Um, so I'm getting a little worried that it's starting to get to his head, and I know Pittsburgh's really tough to kick. There was some stats that could put out that it's the second hardest stadium to kick in the NFL. So like I do appreciate that, and I do respect that, and I know how good of a kicker he is. But we're seeing some cracks, and I'm getting a little concerned because usually he made a really long kick earlier in the game, but he did almost not single handedly, but that field extra point miss did almost lose us the game. So I'm going to give it to Chris Boswell.
Yeah, I knew you were going there. It's a
Yeah.
bad time for the yips to come in this time of year, right? When
Yeah.
everything seems like it could be clicking on offense and defense will get there, but when the team is overall playing pretty good and you have what you think to be your most consistent piece,
Right.
show some inconsistencies. I think that is a little bit troublesome. So, yeah, Boswell 2 for 3 on extra points, 2 for 2 on his field goals. Did hit a 57-yarder and looked pretty good with
Yeah.
his 2 field goals. But yeah, it's a little bit concerning. So I'm with you. I don't want to discredit you. I think it's a very valid thing that we need to talk about. Fortunately for us, because of Tyler Loop's miss, Boswell's miss didn't even matter.
Yep.
But it very well could have mattered, and it could have been night and day in terms of making the playoffs and missing. So I'm with you. That's a really really tough one, and you got to hope that Boswell doesn't have something going on and is able to shake it. Because normally when he misses a kick, he can rebound pretty quickly. So it's tough that
Yeah.
this one was the last one of the game that we saw.
I will say the other thing, well, the last 3 have been the last kick he's had in the game, which is kind
Mm,
of crazy to think about, right?
good
So
point.
that's not good. It's fourth quarter. It's clutch time. The other thing that I didn't like after the game was they posted all the videos of everybody walking from the field to the locker room, and everybody's celebrating. Every single player, every single coach. Like it's like a party almost. Boswell's the only one that didn't have a smile on his face. He was head down, like looked really angry, hat on, head down, and just walked into the locker room without any emotion. And I get it, he's mad at himself, but he didn't even allow himself to feel joy in that moment. It looked like, now again, I'm watching a video, so I don't really know, but I'm hoping it's not turning in his head and yeah, like you're saying, it's becoming a yip situation or a confidence issue. That is something I am concerned about.
It's hard, man. Kicker's
Oh
probably
yeah.
one of the hardest positions to play in the NFL, and so it's not a good spot to be in. Fortunately, we've had a really good run with Boswell. I
Yeah.
still think he's the best, if not one of the best kickers in the league.
Oh yeah.
He still is consistent as can be, even with some of these misses, and really good kickers miss kicks. But you're right. We saw 3 in a row coming at a bad time. It got to make you want got kind of has to make you wonder like what's going on, if there is something bigger, or if it's just hey, a couple misses. And again, traditionally he's been pretty good at shaking out of it. So
Yeah.
hopefully going into the next game against Houston, he'll be kicking it at Acrisure for a little bit, and God forbid we win, and if the Bills, who are a 6 seed, and gosh, if the Chargers, who are a 7 seed, win, like we could have another home playoff game. So
Yeah,
can't get way too ahead of ourselves. That's crazy to think about, but he could be kicking in Acrisure for a little bit more this season. So I think it's valid. I think it's good to talk about. Pulling for Boz because
me too.
hopefully we don't see any more of that. Um, Aside from Chris Collinsworth, who I think is a pretty easy give for this one, man, he was like at a new level of annoying to me last night, and it was just atrocious. To the point my dad texted me, which is actually kind of funny, and he does every now and then. He hates Sunday Night Football as much as I do.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find the text to see what he said. But it was pretty good. Yeah, he said, "Shut the f up, Chris Collinsworth. Why can't we just watch football? It's all about listening to these two a-holes." So yeah, like father, like son, which I think is pretty funny. But
That is funny.
um, if I actually got to give it to someone for real, I'm gonna give my jag off to Jalen Ramsey.
Yep.
Jalen Ramsey, if you want to talk about guys who almost single-handedly lost us this game, Jalen Ramsey is up there pretty high on the hit list as well. He led up the very early touchdown to Devontae Walker right off the bat, 38-yard touchdown, where it seemed like the Steelers were playing pretty good defense against the Ravens, and just a few plays in, letting up a 38-yard touchdown, totally getting burned. Pretty much right off the line of scrimmage, and then he led up the terrible play at the end of the game too to Isaiah Likely, where it looked like he kind of went for more of the play to, I guess, defend the ball rather
Yeah.
than kind of, I don't know, like he was trying to maybe let Isaiah Likely catch the ball, but try to make a play to knock it out or not let him fully control it rather than, I don't know, going for the ball or being
High
more
pointing
athletic
it.
in that sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was a really shitty play there by Jalen Ramsey. So did not have a good game. I don't really even know what his numbers look like on the box score if I pull it up. Six tackles and one pass defended is what it is. But he just that was a really frustrating game to watch, and I think he was a big reason why we got ourselves into the hole that we did.
Yeah, I'm glad that's where you went. He was an honorable mention of mine that I was waiting to see who you went with, so I'm glad you took us here. This was probably his worst game as a Steeler, I have to say.
Yeah.
He just looked slow. I think he's proving more and more each week that he can't really cover anymore. Like you said on that first touchdown, I don't even know if he moved and Devontae Walker was already gone.
Yeah.
Like it's not good. And I thought him moving back to safety and us having the healthy corners, we wouldn't really have to see him cover. And man, every time he was in coverage or not playing the deep safety or in the box, he made a negative play for us. So completely agree with that. That last play, yeah, I felt like he was playing conservative, like we had a lead and all we had to do was not give up a touchdown. I mean, at that point, any points would have beat us. So go for the ball, try to knock it out. I personally think he easily could have knocked that ball out.
I think so
And
too.
that's a Jalen Ramsey play too, right? Like that's the kind of guy he is. He's going to come up with that clutch play at the end of the game, and for him not to do that is another thing that worries me, right? It's just I thought he looked timid, and I'm totally with you. I think that's pretty deserving. He had a really bad game.
So if I look at this and I say, let's turn these negatives into positives, I think the two good things is that if you didn't go Boz, you probably would have went Jalen Ramsey, right?
Yeah,
I mean, I think the only other honorable mention is Arthur Smith's call on 4th and 1 to run a misdirection,
yeah,
which is just ridiculously stupid. But there wasn't anything to me like egregiously that stands out about a particular player or something like that. So I think the positive side here is that the Jagoffs in this sense are going to two veterans,
yeah.
two experienced guys, two
True.
leaders in this locker room. You're going to a special teams captain, and you're going to a guy who's just won a Super Bowl and is he's a damn good player.
Yeah,
And so I think those guys know, hey, that was on me. We almost lost because of me. I fucked up, right? Whatever it is, I think those guys are going to be the ones that potentially can get out of their heads quicker than a Joey Porter Jr. or
yeah.
whoever.
James Pierre,
Um,
whatever. Yeah,
exactly. So I think that's the positive that we can look towards. Now, again, big kicks, you got to come up and make them. And the Texans, they have a really good receiving group. So both of these guys need to evaluate what happened this week on Sunday night. But
yeah.
I feel confident that these guys can make adjustments or can kind of move on from what they had. So that's my take. That's kind of why I wanted to start with some of these negatives.
Well, and can I take that into a little bit of a defensive conversation here, just since we're on the negative still?
Yeah,
If you look at the whole of the game, I mean, early on, Derrick Henry ran all over us, but we adjusted really well, and
we did.
part of that is the Ravens not giving them the ball, but also part of it was we stuffed him there in the second half and late in the first half where he wasn't just running wild on us. I mean, that first play of the game was awful, but we kind of settled in a little bit. In my opinion, though, the defense played really good, other than 4 plays, and just so happened that 3 of them were touchdowns. The
Hmm.
38-yard touchdown pass to Devontae Walker, the 50-yard touchdown pass to Zay Flowers, where we had 2 guys with a possible sack opportunity. Lamar gets out, and then he's wide open. The
Yeah,
64-yard touchdown pass to Zay Flowers, where he's wide open again. And then the Isaiah Likely play at the end, which I don't know how many yards that was. Let me see. A 26-yard pass. I think other
30.
than those
Yeah.
4 yeah, other than those 4 blown coverages, I thought the defense actually played a pretty solid game. And so, from that perspective, too, if we can clean up those 4 plays, those 4 blown coverages, this might be not as tight of a game and it might actually look a little bit better on the score sheet. So, I know we've been having these issues all year and we keep saying we're going to fix it the next week, and sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. But if it was 4 plays that I think broke the dam on the defense. And if we can just clean up those 4 plays, we could be a pretty solid team.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the Ravens, at least from what I saw, they didn't run a play in the red zone at all yesterday. Um,
Wow.
which I
Yeah,
mean
that
makes
makes
sense, right?
sense.
The points that they scored were on those really long touchdowns. You mentioned 38, 64, 50. So they didn't run a play in the red zone at all. So in some ways you could say that was bend don't break, but in some ways you could say that we just broke, and we didn't even get the chance to bend, letting up those big plays. But the Steelers defense, we've let up 28 total yards in the third quarter over our last three
Crazy.
games. That's insane. Like this has been a huge shift from what we've seen where we actually are making an adjustment post halftime with our defense, and the third quarter has really truly panned out to be a quarter where we can kind of come in and dominate and set the record straight a little bit. Now, the fourth quarter always, raises our heart rate, right? And things go berserk there. But
Yeah.
to establish ourselves as a really solid third quarter team and third quarter defense, that's great. So I'm pleased with how the defense played as well, aside from those really really big plays. And again, I think a lot of those are in part to Jalen Ramsey, and so if some adjustments get
Yeah.
made, we can hopefully expect some change. And again, I watched a little bit of it. What was it? I don't know if it was last game. The Houston. It wasn't this past week where Houston played the Colts. It was the week prior. I think it was week 17, and Houston opened up and had 2 massive bombs in the first quarter to their wide
Yeah.
receivers, and they got on the board like 14-0 super super early. So they're going to try to stretch the field against us, and we need to be prepared for that. So yeah, that's our biggest area of weakness, I would say, right now, especially following this game. But outside of that, the defense played great. We can talk about the D line. We can talk about our linebacking core. We can talk about Cam Hayward. Um, we'll get there, but um, good stuff, I would say, aside from those
Yeah.
massive plays.
And I was just going to say, like, one of the other blown coverages was because of Kyle Duggar. If you look at the video, it looks like Joey Porter Jr. gave him a sign and he misunderstood it and didn't play the right coverage. And I do wonder if maybe some of that is the consistency or the playing beside Jalen Ramsey. Duggar's now playing a different role, sort of, with Jalen Ramsey back there now as opposed to the last couple of weeks without him. So maybe this was just something that we had to work through and get back to where we were before all these cornerback injuries happened, and maybe that can happen this week before we move to the Texans. So yeah, let's just clean it up, and I don't know. I feel like the defense is really really stepping up.
For sure. Okay, balls of steel. I feel like there's a few that are worthy here.
Do you want to go? Or do you want me to go?
No, I'd like you to go because I might give mine to a little. I'm not going to pull a Polt special. There is a player that's going to get this, but it might be a little, I would say, unconventional, or maybe just not shown as much or represented in the stat lines. So what do you got?
Yeah, I have 2 honorable mentions that I'll do when you're done, but it's one of the guys you brought up, and I feel like we've not been disrespectful of him. I just feel like we haven't talked about him enough this year, and I mentioned that last week. But Cam Hayward, Cam Hayward absolutely deserves the balls of steel, in my opinion. He played, I don't know, arguably the best game of the season last night, and he was phenomenal. Doesn't even some of the stuff doesn't even show on the stat sheet. I mean, the T.J. Watt interception was because of a blocked pass by Cam Hayward. He was all over the quarterback, making stops. He was getting off in run fits. He was stuffing Derrick Henry. 7 tackles and 1 QB hit is his stat line. I don't know how he didn't get that pass defended. They gave it to Alex Highsmith, I think. I believe it was Cam Hayward, but Cam Hayward's just been phenomenal, and the guy's 36 years old, and he leads all interior defensive linemen with 78 tackles and with 823 snaps. I mean, that's crazy. He's playing more snaps than any other D lineman at 36, and I thought his unselfishness, him being a team leader, being willing to take over that Darnell Washington spot on the what is truly the brotherly shove, him stepping in on the field goal and kick team and being the guy that gets run at because Darnell Washington's not there. I mean, it's just unselfishness, and you could see after the game how much it meant to him. He was so emotional, and I don't know, man. I think this is it for him. I really do. I think this might be his last season with just the way he was acting yesterday, and I'm really happy for him that he's really pulling through. And I know he got a lot of negative press before the season with the contract situation, but he's been phenomenal and has been a rock for us in the D line. So I think he's totally deserving of the balls of steel this week.
I love it. I'm close to doubling down. I think that was, I'm not going to, but I loved how, like, that was definitely Cam's. I don't want to say his swan song, and I hope
Yeah,
it's not his last game. I hope we have more to come. He deserves a piece of hardware, I think, for what he's given to this team, and everyone counted him out the last 2 years, right?
yeah,
In particular, for his age, and he's definitely had a coming of age at 36 years old and played lights out. Led the team in tackles yesterday, and gosh, it was awesome. He was a force to be reckoned with, and that was really cool to see him step in and take over that role that with Darnell Washington being out. I mean,
yep,
is Cam Hayward the second biggest player on the team? He probably is,
yeah,
or maybe one
probably.
of the other defensive linemen is. But that was just really cool to see. So I really like that. Um, there's a couple guys that I think maybe would fall into the honorable mention category, and maybe one of the guys I'm going to bring up might not even be in your honorable mention, but
Probably not.
I think it's worth mentioning the Jalen Warren Kenneth Gainwell duo was
Yeah,
fantastic yesterday. Um, Jalen Warren ran really hard. Kenneth Gainwell, our leading receiver, again on 8 catches, 64 yards. It's funny how that happens, but they just both play so well. I love how they're involved. Um, Pat Fryermuth was so great to see.
yeah,
When we actually get him involved,
yep.
what he can do. Um, and the honorable mention that I really toyed with giving it to, but it just doesn't really make sense, is Adam Thielen, because
Hmm.
Thielen had himself a pretty darn good game, and I think he is the epitome of the Mike Tomlin bringing in someone who's well past his prime and whatever, but really wants to be and chooses to be and proves to be a contributor to this team. That ball that Aaron Rodgers threw right into the breadbasket of
Beautiful.
Adam Thielen was my favorite play that happened all game yesterday. And Adam Thielen, I think, is at least deserving of an honorable mention. But I'm going to give my balls of steel to Calvin Austin.
Love it.
Calvin Austin, about time that we saw some high level production out of him. Only 3 catches, but 55 yards, and the big touchdown that came with the 26-yard play to him. I read something somewhere that basically said in the huddle, Rodgers looked at Calvin Austin and said, "Hey, like what do you want to do here or whatever?" And some of
That's
the
awesome.
offensive line just said, just burn him, like just toast him. And he put on a little shifty move and got wide open for that touchdown. And that was the game that Calvin Austin needed, especially in DK Metcalf's absence.
Yep,
And I got to give you a little bit of credit too, because before the game you had said, this is Calvin Austin and this is Pat Fryermuth. And I said, yeah, if we use them.
yep.
And we did. And we used them. And that was really, really great to see. So I think Calvin Austin, I don't know if he's got one from either of us this year, but I think it's very deserving for him to have have one on the offensive side of the ball. I was thinking you were going to talk about. I'll just let you have the floor. I want to see where you're going to go with some of your balls of steel honorable mentions because there's a couple other guys that come to mind, and I think you're going to go or at least bring up some of these guys.
Well,
Or at least
yeah,
one.
just real quick. So Calvin Austin, no, we have not given it to him. So great job on you. We talk about the misfits, the wide receivers. Let's just hit on that real quick. I think this was the best game MVS and Adam Thielen both played
Agreed.
with us.
Yep.
So I mean, MVS had 5 for 34, Thielen 3 for 43, but the 28-yard catch. Calvin Austin 3 for 55 with the 26-yard catch, and Pat Fryermuth 3 for 51 with the 31-yard catch. The offense just looked different, and we could talk about Aaron Rodgers in a little bit, but Aaron Rodgers, I mean, his passing chart looked like a NFL quarterback's again. Like the last 2 weeks, he's been thrown over the middle of the field. He's thrown downfield some, and I know guys aren't really, or other teams aren't scared of us because we don't have DK Metcalf, and rightfully so. But these guys stepped up, and I got to give Calvin Austin a lot of credit. He said him and Aaron Rodgers have been working on that exact route every day for the last like 3 weeks. So it's
Love
cool
it.
that happened. And I mean, that route was phenomenal. It was the picture perfect route in that moment. Rodgers threw the ball and was celebrating before he even caught it. Like that's how clean it was. And just giving it to him, I think is amazing.
Yeah.
I have two honorable mentions. The first one is Connor Hayward. And it might be a bold take, but like Connor Hayward has actually added some worth to this team. And
He
I
has.
know we make fun of the tush push and our execution of it, but it's become a viable play. And with our creativity off of it, I think teams get like a little worried about it. And I think Connor Hayward is the reason for that. So I want to give him a lot of credit for that. He's also been awesome as a gunner and on special teams. So I think he deserves some credit there as well. But really, my main honorable mention, which this is a Polt special, it's got to
Oh,
go to Alohi Gilman of the Baltimore Ravens. And I know that's weird to give a Raven a balls of steel, but he took out his own player, Kyle Hamilton. I mean, Kyle Hamilton absolutely had a defensive
oh my
pass
God.
interference on Calvin Austin, and Alohi Gilman came in and took out his head. And from that moment on, the game flipped on its head. And seriously, I do contribute a lot of our success in the second half offensively to Kyle Hamilton not being in the game. And I know that's crazy to say, but he is arguably one of the top 5, top 10 defensive players in football, and that's how important he is to that team. But our offense was not doing a whole lot until Kyle Hamilton got hurt early in the second half. So I'm trying to find the stats. There are some stats to prove that, to back me up and not just call me crazy for it. But
No, I had seen that too.
yeah, I just found it. So with him on the field, we had a 37%. We had 3.9 yards per play and a 37% success rate on 38 plays. With him off the field, we had 6.9 yards per play, 60% success rate on 35 plays. So, I mean, we're talking about a 3-yard difference per play with him on and off the field, which in a game of football is a lot. So, yeah, Alohi Gilman's going to be my Polt special honorable mention.
I really thought you were gonna at least give some credit to your buddy A Rod with what happened in the game. There were some plays that I think truly could only be made by a veteran quarterback, and I got to give him that. I will say I was really annoyed last night watching the game with a few things that happened, and I'll get to that in just a second. I also think early on in the game, Aaron Rodgers did not look like he was really on, and I think
Yeah,
something changed, and he really kind of came into himself a little bit. But what really bugged me, and I've since seen a video that has kind of changed things a little bit, but what really bugged me was the usage of our timeouts when it seemed like things were really at a critical stance and we burned 2 timeouts really, really quickly,
yeah,
without being able to kind of bank them. And we used one early, I think, in the third quarter too,
yeah.
where, gosh, that's kind of a really crappy thing to do, right? It seems like you want to bank your timeouts for in case you need them in the fourth quarter. Now, I don't know what the story was with that very first one in the third. I think maybe he was just trying to draw him off sides or get his hard count to work, and it didn't. And so he
Yeah.
just said, whatever, it didn't work. We're going to use a timeout. In the fourth quarter, there were some pretty significant issues, I guess, with his headset and his helmet. And heard Aaron Rodgers and I think his post game say something along the lines of, I realized with the personnel that was in, Spencer Anderson was in, and the other people that were in, there were only a few plays that could be called, and the subset of plays that essentially could be ran weren't necessarily suitable for the situation, which was we were down by 4 points and we really needed to get a touchdown. And I think it was third down. And Aaron Rodgers basically said, I'm not going to do it. And he called a timeout. And that was where I was like, on the surface, when you don't have all your data points and don't know
Yeah.
everything, that's a really shitty timeout to take. But when you hear that afterwards, that's a veteran play, right? Because a younger quarterback might actually say, okay, we're not going to burn that timeout. We're going to run the play, and you're probably not going to convert there. And so I'll definitely give him a pass. I mean, you know me, I have been so up and down with Aaron Rodgers all season. I'm
Yep.
like, I see signs of his MVP caliber and future Hall of Fame, and then I see signs of, the Ben Roethlisberger in his last 2 years, where it just seems like he's washed up and can't really do much. And it's frustrating. We kind of get both sometimes when we know what we have with him. I think what I'll say about Aaron Rodgers is, and he made some amazing, amazing throws last night. I don't know if Aaron Rodgers is the most talented football player that the Steelers have, and is the most talented football player on the field, but I think Aaron Rodgers is the smartest player that the Steelers have. And so I'll take that going into the playoffs this year, because if you look at it, and again, I do not want to get way too ahead of ourselves here, because if history repeats itself, we're
Yeah.
one and done after next week against Houston. But if you look at what we have in the AFC here, you have Bo Nix. The Denver Broncos are the 1 seed. He's going to be playing, I think, his second career playoff game, and it's coming after rest, right? The Broncos get a bye week, which can be a great thing, can also not be a good thing. The number 2 seed, the New England Patriots, this is Drake May's first playoff game.
Yep.
The 3 seeds, Trevor Lawrence, traditionally haven't played well in the playoffs. Steelers are 4. Houston, C.J. Stroud, traditionally not too great in the playoffs. I think, and he only has a few under his belt. This is what,
Yep.
his third or fourth season. 6 seed Bills, Josh Allen is your most experienced quarterback in the playoffs, hasn't won the big game. And the 7 seed, if you go to Los Angeles and look at Justin Herbert, also haven't performed well in the playoffs. So this is a team where Aaron Rodgers is clearly the most experienced player when it comes to playoffs.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is what you want. So gosh, it's going to be great to have DK Metcalf back. It's going to be great to have TJ Watt back and healthy. I mean, he played a lot last week or last night, but um, I think that's kind of how I feel about Aaron Rodgers right now. I think he's not the most talented player on the field, but he's the smartest player on the field, and I think that's a good thing for the Steelers.
And I don't think you need him to be the best player on the field, right? I think you need him to make the smart decisions and throw some of those balls that not many people can throw. I mean, how many passes did he have that were only a couple guys can probably make? I think at least two, if not maybe
I think
three.
so too. The
The
Thielen and the Pat
Thielen and
throws for
right.
sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
those two throws and the reading of the defense were phenomenal, and that is what he brings. And I know he had a stinker last week, but he called his own shot and he said, I don't really have stinkers 2 weeks in a row. And I thought this was his best game as a Steeler. I mean, the stat line, maybe he should have gotten an honorable mention. I don't know, but 31 of 47 for 294 with a TD, that the big 20-yard run. I know he makes some decisions sometimes that you don't necessarily understand or that we don't necessarily understand. But I think there is always a deeper thought process with him. And I think sometimes there is reasons that we'll never know of why he
Hmm.
does certain things, like the not running for the one first down. I think he truly thought, I can't get this. Can I somehow make a play here by faking like I'm going to run and then throw it? I don't know. Some little things like that where sometimes he might be too smart for his own good. But I absolutely agree. The smarts and the experience is what we need to go on a run here. And if Aaron plays like he did last night, I don't really know if there's a lot of teams that can stop him. I mean, if our path holds the way it is, I mean, the Texans are the best defense in football. Just to throw that out there, so it's going to be tough. But I think Aaron Rodgers, with his veteran presence, with his experience, he's been around the block. He's played these tough defenses before. I feel like he might be able to make some reads here and make some plays. And how many times have we seen him draw it up in the sand and make it work? The Kenneth Gainwell against the Lions, Calvin Austin.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just stuff you don't get from a lot of quarterbacks, and that he is why this team, no matter what happens, I'll say it again, he is why this team's a little bit different, because we have a veteran back there that can still throw the ball really well and we trust. So, yeah, I thought this is great for him to have his best game of the year. He's the first Steelers quarterback to sweep the Ravens in the regular season since Big Ben in 2021. So,
Yeah.
hey, man, and the guys respect him. Did you see Cam Hayward after the game? When they first saw each other, Cam just said, thank you. That's all
Yeah.
he said. I
Yeah.
mean, I think these guys respect him.
No, they do, and I think you're totally right. It has become apparent to me that it is, you know, we are a little bit different this year because of him, and
Yeah,
I think it's because of his high IQ play.
yeah,
Um, I think the talent level, yeah, there definitely are some throws he's had all season, but he's had some pretty low lows this season as
yeah,
well. So we've had plenty of talent at the quarterback position since Ben that just hasn't panned out, but they didn't have nearly the same IQ level or veteran presence that Aaron Rodgers did. And for that reason, I think that's why we have one or two more wins.
yep.
I think if you go all the way back, man, you got to check this out because I think if you go all the way back to where we talked preseason before the season started, I think this is not to boost my ego up one bit, but I think I said the Steelers are going to go 9-8, and then I said when Rodgers came on, I said I think we're going to go 10-7. I think I gave us one more win, and that I think maybe is the edge that we get with Aaron Rodgers. But um, unrelated to that, I really thought you were going to give a little bit of a Polt special to Father Max, who
Oh my goodness, I thought about it. I forgot, to
yeah.
be
So
honest.
if anyone hasn't seen, there was a priest from St. Vincent Latrobe who came down and blessed the field with holy water, and it was actually the end zone, which Tyler Loop missed the game losing kick. So that was pretty awesome to see. And I honestly thought you were going to talk a little bit, or at least mention, you give him credit where credit's due sometimes, Coach T, because I think he called a little bit of a different game here, and there were a few plays where we saw it, and I think the first of which was the fourth and maybe two, where we were on our own 40 something. We were definitely on our own side of the field. And he made a really risky call to go for it. And that's normally very early in the game, a Mike
Yeah,
Tomlin punt decision. And that was, even though we didn't get it, I think we both said we were happy that we went for it, right? Like
yeah,
it showed to be a little bit gutsy. And then the last drive right before halftime, where we had the penalty, or the Ravens got a penalty in the end zone and put us at the 1 yard line. So it was 2 seconds left.
yeah.
Essentially, it was kind of an untimed down. We chose to go for it, and we ultimately didn't get it. And that was kind of a big swing of points there because we could have gone into the locker room down 10-6, and then you get the ball after halftime and come out, it could score again, and instead we go in 10-3. And that's a pretty big swing of points, I feel like, at that position in the game and for momentum. And Mike Tomlin said, hey, we're gonna risk it. And actually, I don't know who it was, Tracy Wolfson, Aaron Andrews, I forget who the actual
Melissa Stark.
uh, Melissa Stark. Yeah, so she interviewed Tomlin right afterwards, and he said, yeah, like there's no question why we wouldn't go for it. And so that to me was like Mike Tomlin was a little bit different than he was in previous games. And so gosh, that doesn't mean my opinion holistically
No,
changes about him, but that was good to see, right? He was, I think he knew the stakes and knew what was on the line and had to make big moves. And I don't like that he doesn't do that against the Browns and against the other teams. But if that's the Mike Tomlin that we're going to have in playoffs, then maybe we are coached a little bit differently.
yeah, it's a great comment, really good comment. He deserves some of this as well, for sure. I thought that you said it perfectly with that end of the half play. That penalty actually lost us 3 points, which is kind of funny to say, but if we had 3rd and 9 from the 9, or 4th and 9, I guess, from the 9 with 2 seconds
We
left,
would have
we
kicked.
would have kicked the field goal and it would have been 10-6. But with that penalty, putting the ball on the 1 yard line, I think it's absolutely the right decision. We can talk. The play call might have not been the right decision. Definitely
Yeah,
wasn't the right decision. But going forward and trying to tie the game up and get that momentum and then get the ball to start the second half, I think was absolutely the right play. And yeah, it's good to see him, as he always says, not living his fears. He finally seems to be changing it, kicking the long field goal with Boswell. That's something he might not have done earlier in the year.
agreed. That
Um,
too. That too.
right?
Yep.
Like kicking the
Early in
57
the game.
yarder. So
Hmm.
it's some of these things that are actually decisions that, whether they pan out or not, are changing I don't know, the philosophy of the team and the way we play and our success rate. So yeah, definitely give him credit. I will say I think part of it might be Aaron Rodgers. I think he just has more faith in Rodgers than
Hmm.
maybe he would have in past with Russell Wilson or Mitch Trubisky or Kenny Pickett or one of those guys. I think he just has a little bit more trust in Rodgers to get us into the right play and get us into the right situation. Why he didn't do that on the fourth, on the play from the 1, I don't know. But yeah, if Tomlin's coaching like this, we might be okay.
Yeah, we'll see. Okay, so I think we effectively, inadvertently covered a lot of the game. What's missing? What else do you want to mention from this game that is important before we kind of talk about our wild card playoff game?
So I have two things: one defense, one offense. We'll do defense first because the offense is a hypothetical. Defensively, Nick Herbig, I mean, TJ Watt played a lot more snaps than I expected. TJ Watt played 84% of the snaps, whereas Nick Herbig only played 25% and still had that sack. I still think Herbig might want to see the field a little bit more. He's one of our
Hmm.
best. I mean, he might be our best pass rusher. Um, Got to give credit again to Alex Highsmith. Played a phenomenal game as well. He's really come on here, and him and TJ back is crazy. So good for him. Logan Lee, one of our rookies out of Iowa, played
From
one
Iowa.
defensive snap and had the pass deflection on the screen pass. Phenomenal depth there. And I just think otherwise, like we didn't hear from any of the other corners, whether it be like we only heard from Duggar and Ramsey. We didn't talk about Joey Porter Jr. We didn't talk about Asante Samuel. We didn't talk about James Pierre. We didn't talk about Brandon Eccles. That's a good thing. We don't want
Yeah.
to have to talk
Now
about that.
Lamar had 18 pass attempts, but still.
True. I
But
mean,
you're
but
totally right.
right. I mean, so like I thought overall the defense played really well, and the D line just continues. Derek Harmon is a stud in there, and I think Keanu Benton's getting better. So, yeah, I thought really good on the defensive side.
Cool. What about the
All right.
offense you want to add?
Here's my hypothetical. If we have DK Metcalf, is that game as close as it was?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I think a couple plays are going to swing probably more in our favor, but I think just the way that things happen, a few more plays are going to, for some reason, swing towards the Ravens. I don't
Fair.
think we have a way out of saying one player is going to change the way that that team played out or that game played out. It was great to see the plays made by some of these other guys in
Yeah.
his absence. I think DK Metcalf does make us a different team. There were times in the first half, particularly in the first half, where I was like, man,
Yep.
it'd be really nice if we had a fast and tall wide receiver.
Somebody
So
that
I
can get
think,
open against man to man.
yeah, and there were a couple throws by Rodgers where like he threw to a completely covered Calvin Austin, he threw to Scotty Miller. It's like,
Yeah.
what are we doing here? But even some of the MVS throws, um, I don't think. Do I think I think the outcome would be the same. I think we end up on
Yeah.
top, but there's no way where he coming in makes the team worse. But I don't know. Just by my like weird pessimism, I don't think that anything is drastically different. Although I'd love it to be. I'd love it to say, hey, we win by 10, but I don't think so. Do you?
That is fair. I mean, my only comment is Rodgers threw for 300 yards in this game, and he didn't have DK Metcalf, and DK Metcalf had 150 against them in the first game. I just think he's our man beater, and we didn't have that, like you said, in the first half, and
And they played a lot of man. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
why we were so stagnant. And once we started opening it up, the runs started opening up, and I think it would have changed our offensive outlook. You're right. It probably would have still been a really close game, maybe coming down to the
Just
last
because it
play.
always is, though. That's the
That's a good
thing.
point. Right. But I do
I
think it changes our offense entirely.
Yeah, and I think the good news there is we have a week of practice and we have
Yep.
all that to see next week, right? Like this is aside from Darnell Washington, which sucks. This is probably the healthiest the team has been all year, right? If
Yep.
TJ Watt is back, um, a lot of these guys are fully healthy. I know we had kind of I saw, I think it was a meme that was like Aaron Rodgers has kind of the rest of the Avengers coming back with like Ben Skoranek getting healthy, TJ
Yeah.
Watt coming back. So this is like a lot to look forward to with this upcoming game, and I think DK being back, I think DK is if I was DK, I'd be so fucking pissed off
Yep.
that I'm coming in and I'm showing everyone like I'm a force to be reckoned with, and I think Rodgers knows that too, and I would not be surprised. We'll get to bold predictions in a moment, but I would not be surprised if DK Metcalf has himself a good game and shows his presence. So,
And that's just I feel like we've been playing hamstrung, like we're playing handicap the last 2 weeks without DK Metcalf because our offense, whether you like it or not, revolves around him being out there. And so the fact that we were able to get this 300-yard passing performance with the misfits, as we keep calling them, I think is a really good sign moving forward into the playoffs where now we have DK Metcalf back. So that was my only comment there. I did forget Jalen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell, only duo in football to have over 1,000 all-purpose yards or I guess rushing and receiving yards. That's pretty cool. And I almost had the score prediction. I thought I had it perfect. I predicted 20-17 Steelers. It was 20-17 with 4 minutes
It
left in the
was.
fourth,
It was.
and
Yeah.
then we gave up the big touchdown. So I was really hopeful that we'd both hit and it'd be great. But yeah, that's what I got.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, time to move on, right?
Yep.
Big time game coming up against the Houston Texans. I want to lead in here by saying I've seen some stuff that says the Houston Texans really lucked out and got a great draw in the playoffs. And I don't think that's the case. I think this is a great matchup for the Steelers. I think it's best case scenario for us, given who we could have been playing. And I think we match up really well against the Houston Texans. There's a few things that come to mind. Now, the Houston Texans are a warm weather dome team, right? And if the
Yep.
weather is anything like it was on Sunday Night Football, it's going to be cold. It might be wet. It's going to be a challenging environment for the Houston Texans to play in, and it's a place where Aaron Rodgers knows how to play. It's a place where our team now is seasoned and well positioned to play. Um, the thing that scares me a little bit is knowing how good Houston's defense is, right? I think they're the number one defense or close to it. You can go through these stats when you have them, but what we were just talking about with Aaron Rodgers is the fact that he can really show his veteran presence when it's needed is, I think, the way that we can win this game. Aaron Rodgers knows when substitutions happen and when there's a 12th man on the field. He knows when someone's lined up weird. He's going to try to draw you off sides. He's going to
Yeah.
try to, take advantage of a hard count. There are things that Aaron Rodgers can do that I think no one else in this game will be able to, that if the Steelers win, it will be, I think, for those reasons that he's a vet. Again, I've said it multiple times this season. I go back to a quote that you had said, to me over text, I don't know, X games ago, but this is why you went out and got Aaron Rodgers.
Yep.
And we'll see if he truly can kind of, right the ship here. We can go into all those analytics about, the Steelers have won 23 games in a row on Monday Night Football at home, but we haven't won a playoff game since 2016, 2017, right? So which one is going to win out here? The Houston Texans have a 109-point differential this year.
Wow.
That's really, really good. That's first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth out of all playoff teams, behind the Seahawks, Rams, Pats, Jags, and Bills. 109 point differential. Care to take a guess what the Steelers differential is at?
It can't be good. Near zero, or maybe like 30,
It's
20.
at 10.
Yeah.
10. So pretty close to zero. And we're worst of all playoff qualifying teams, with the exception of the Carolina Panthers, who are actually negative 69, which is really, really wild. But we are the worst team in terms of point differential outside of Carolina. So that speaks to how we win games, right? We play close games. We don't blow out opponents. And so that's just the way that the Pittsburgh Steelers kind of grind. But the Houston Texans can put up a lot of points on the board. And they are going to be eager. They just put up 38 points against the Colts. They're going to be eager to come in and beat the Steelers and prove that they are a good team. So that's what I have to say to start, but I'll let you kind of take things from here.
Well, I mean, that's perfect because, I mean, why their differential's so good is they're the second best team in points allowed per game, only giving up 17.4 points a game. I mean, it's a stingy defense. They're first in total yards allowed per game, of only giving up 277. They won that by actually a yard per game over the Denver Broncos. They're fourth against the run. They're sixth against the pass. This is a very, very stout defense, and their offense struggled to start the year, but the defense has always been good, and that's why their point differential is so good. Offensively, though, they're kind of middle of the pack like we are. They're 13th in points scored, like 24 a game. They're 14th passing the ball. C.J. Stroud, and you mentioned earlier in the episode, the wide receivers are pretty solid. And then they're 22nd running the ball. Somehow they have 108 yards rushing a game, which is kind of shocking to me, to be honest with you, looking at it. But, I mean, they're not this high-powered offense. They can be, and they can be really good, but they haven't really functioned like that most of the season. So it's going to be whose defense or whose offense can play better against the other team's defense. I know we aren't the best defensive team, but we've been a lot better in the second half against some really good competition. And it's can Aaron Rodgers expose them a couple times, and that's really what it's going to come down to. You mentioned we've won 23 straight Monday Night Football games. They've never won a road playoff game in franchise history. They've won 9 games in a row though, and we haven't won a playoff game since 2017. So there's a lot of I think it's 2017. So there's a lot of streaks going on here that which one's going to get broken, and I don't know, man. This game could go either way. I like you said, I feel good about the matchup. I might have wanted the Chargers more, but the Texans are beatable. Like they're a very beatable team, especially if you can put up like 20 some points on them. Because there's no guarantee their offense will put up 30 or anything like that. So I don't know. I think this is going to be a tough game, but I would not say that we don't have. I would say we definitely have a chance. I
I'll
think we
tell you
really
what.
do.
I mean, I hope this doesn't come and bite me, but I feel better going into this game than I did against the Ravens week 18,
That's understandable.
the game we just recapped. So I think I'm going to take a little bit of your optimism. I don't know if I'm going to fully drink the Kool-Aid here, but I do think we have a fighting chance. I think this is a good draw for the Steelers. We have seen a Steelers team this year play that can beat the Texans. The question is whether or not
Yeah.
that team shows up and comes and decides to play. That I
Yep.
think is going to be the biggest determining factor here. Are we going to get veteran Aaron Rodgers? Are we going to get Cam Hayward, who knows it could be his last season? He's ready to just wreck down walls. Are we going to get DK Metcalf on his revenge game? Who knows? But I think suspension revenge game is probably what I should have said.
Yeah.
I think this is a going to be shaping up to be a good game. If we play all this statistics, or these streaks things, right? The Lions game was we really set the tone there, and I
Yeah.
think we kind of defied or broke those streaks, right? That was like we don't win games without TJ Watt, and the Lions haven't lost, 2 back-to-back games in forever. And we went in and sure, that game ended weird, but we came out on top. So I'm not tied to those stats anymore or those streaks. I am tied a little bit to the Monday Night Football 23 wins in a row, which we did also get one this year. And that weighs pretty heavily in a positive way on me in the way I'm thinking now. But
Yeah.
I'm excited. I was able to get excited again. Will I be disappointed if we win? Of course. But I'm going to be a little bit excited leading into this, and maybe I will be drinking some of that Kool-Aid throughout the week. But I think there's a fighting chance for the Pittsburgh Steelers here.
Yeah, and here's the big thing that I forgot to mention. This Houston Texans defense has 2 really, really good pass rushers, in Danielle Hunter and Anderson. I can't think of his first name. I don't know why. But those 2 guys are really, really good. This is going to really test. Dylan Cook's been really solid, and he played well against Myles Garrett. But these 2 guys are different, and if we go down early and we allow them to, we get one-dimensional and are only throwing the ball, and we just allow them to tee off in a pass rush, it might be bad. So we really need to come out fast. We can't be doing this whole not playing in the first half like we did the last 2 weeks. We need to come out fast and firing and try to get some points up early and keep it close. So, yeah, I think that's really the key to the game. We cannot start slow like we have been doing. So I think that's the last piece I have to add.
Okay, bold prediction. I was getting there a little bit, but DK Metcalf has only had 1 game this year where he's had more than 5 catches.
Wow.
And that was against the first game of playing the Ravens where he had 7. Kind of crazy to think he hasn't had more than 7 catches this season. I don't know if he'll get there, but I'm going to say he has more than 5 catches this game and goes for 100 yards. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be trying to get him the ball, and I think this is going to be a game where he'll definitely show his presence and make himself known. So if we win, I think that will be a determining factor there. So yeah, I'm going to go DK with 5+ catches. I guess I said more than 5, right? So 6+ catches for 100+ yards, and I think that's a formula that the Steelers will need to take to win.
I agree. And the one stat I didn't bring up was turnover differential. I mean, they have the second most turnovers in the league. We have the 4th most. So we have turned other teams over. And I think that's going to be really key in this game. My bold prediction is we have 2+ interceptions. Maybe that's not bold, but I'm looking for the secondary to step up and make some plays here. And really, I'm not going to make this my bold prediction, but I'm going to throw it in there with my score prediction. I think, which my score doesn't actually make sense for this, so hold on, let me adjust that. I'm going to say the Steelers are going to win 24-21, and I think it is going to come down to a Chris Boswell field goal that he makes this time and sends us on to the next round. So that might be maybe that should be my bold prediction, but I'll stick to the interceptions for that. But I do think Boswell comes through here.
I love it. CJ Stroud's only thrown 8 picks this season, so
Okay.
he's been unhealthy. He's been out for I think a few games this season, but eight's not that many. So we'll
No.
see what the defense can do.
One last thing. I don't think I've told you. I will be boots on the ground. I will be there.
Love it. That's awesome.
So
Great
let's see what
news.
happens.
Bring home the W. You have
I'm
a
gonna
pretty
try.
good record this year, right?
Yep. I think I'm 4-1, something like that.
Yeah, it's pretty good. So
Yeah.
let's make it 5-1. Let's get that win. If hey, we also got to say, balls of steel are way done. But
3-1.
honorable mention, it sounded like that was the best fan, like the best environment that we have had in
TJ Watt
Acrisure.
said that. TJ
I feel
Watt said
like
tonight was
since
arguably the
since it's
best
been
atmosphere I've
Acrisure.
been a part of here in Pittsburgh. TJ said
Yeah,
that. So that's even Hines days.
yeah. So bring it back. Bring it back. We're gonna need it. And if we can keep that environment, make it uncomfortable for the Texans to play in. I'll say a couple prayers to Mother Nature and see if we can get some cold and miserable weather. I think that would play in our favor. But this is exciting. This is a really exciting time for the Steelers and chance to prove everyone wrong. So let's see if we can prove everyone wrong. I'm excited, and regardless, we'll be back for at least one more episode. That's how things go here. So,
Yep.
any other parting words? Final
Nope.
thoughts?
I'm just excited for the opportunity. Let's rewrite the history books. Let's get a win. This is what we wanted all season, right? We wanted a playoff win. Let's go out and do it.
Yeah, we made it to the dance, right?
We
Now,
made
now
it.
anything's possible. So, cool. All right. Well, thanks everyone. We appreciate you listening. Let's go out there and get that win, and we'll be back next week.
Thanks everyone. Peace.